Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:06 here on O'Connor and Company, charging through this very busy morning. In 1 hour, it'll be the Chris Plant Show featuring Chris Plant. And coming up in 30 minutes, we're going to check in with Scott Smith. He is that dad out of Loudoun County who, we have great news now, has received a pardon from Governor Glenn Youngkin. So we'll get his initial reaction. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we've been spending a lot of time here in our semi-dedicated programming. Probably 50% of our show this morning is dedicated to remembering September 11th, which frankly is more than what we're getting out of the Biden administration with the president touching down in Anchorage, Alaska to sort of do a token, I'm here.
I'm here.
But the rest of us will go on continuing our remembrance of what happened that day. And also in our next segment here, we're going to focus on those men and women who responded and it took the fight back to our enemies after September 11th. Joining us now is Rick Prado, former CIA ops officer, author of Black Ops, Life of a CIA Shadow Warrior. And I assure you that I know for a fact, because I get messages from the many people who work in the counterterrorism community here who are listening, they know Rick Prado. Rick, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I'd love to sort of pick your brain and get sort of your reaction to what happened right after September, when it was clear that this was Al-Qaeda, when it was clear this was bin Laden, and then you guys immediately, mobilized. What happened? What did you guys do, and what was the plan going forward to sort of track these guys down?
Well, obviously our hair was on fire from the very beginning. As soon as we saw what happened, we make sure that we send out a cable to all the stations in the world about watch your six, because this is not a individual attack. And second, we need to find out who did this. So we knew that it was bin Laden, but we always looked for confirmation. So it was, one of these things that we immediately started calling individuals that had retired, like Gary Schroen, to come back, because he was the one that had the association with the Northern Alliance. Mm-hmm. And we immediately started cobbling together a team for the first boots on the ground. The first boots on the ground, American boots on the ground, were our CIA operations officers.
And how hot was the trail in Afghanistan? Because you guys were on the ground before we were actually officially on the ground, right? Or can we say that now?
That is true. As a matter of fact, the first Special Forces ODA that came in, we're the ones that vectored them in, my guys. But no, I mean, it was the trail was there. Of course, we were new in the area. We had lost a lot of the contacts there. So, look, when somebody doesn't want to be found in the United States, mountain climbing, you'll never find them.
Yeah.
Imagine in a hostile place like Afghanistan. So.
On this anniversary, I always think of Johnny Michael Spann. He was the first American killed in combat in Afghanistan. And did you work with him? Did you have any contact with him?
Yeah, I got to meet him. We grew up in the same side of the agency, the Special Activities Division, which is the agency's Special Forces. And he was a hell of a young man. I got to meet his wife, who was a reports officer for us. And, that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, because guys like Mike Spann and Jennifer Matthews, who we lost subsequently, but also in Afghanistan, the rap that my agency gets in the media, especially in Hollywood, and the immorality that they attach to my colleagues, that is the biggest point that I like to make, is that we are an agency of warriors who are dedicated to trying to help America.
Well, amen to that. And sadly, I think you're right. Hollywood does a pretty lousy job of depicting the reality of what you guys do and how you do keep us safe and our allies safe around the world. But you're also undermined, sadly, by the politicians in this town, and some of those politicians who end up being in the upper levels of leadership at Langley itself. I mean, it is also part of the problem, is it not?
100%. 100%. The one thing that I always tell people is that you cannot run special military or intel operations through a political optic. It's atrocious what is going on and the lack of interest that we're putting on some things. But to show you the epitome of this, during the Clinton years, we had bin Laden in Khartoum in our sights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We knew what he was happening lunch. We knew what car he drove. And we kept putting together plan after plan of rendering him or killing him or whatever it took. Imagine if we would have been allowed to neutralize bin Laden in 1997.
Yeah, if you hadn't been politically handcuffed. In fact, I just want to follow up on that because it occurred to me as you were talking, and so since you brought it up, there must have been a little moment, a little bit of time where you guys in that room who knew exactly where he was just a couple of years before, there must have been so much anger and so much frustration. And then you have to shelve it all. You have to just put it aside because you have a new job to do.
Yeah, I mean, we're a military organization, whether we accept that or not, and we follow orders. And the agency, unlike again Hollywood, we are not allowed to do rogue things. Every dime is accounted for. Every operation is blessed. So for us, it was very frustrating, but we never gave up. And I think that's the important part to remember too. That same unit that I started, the Bin Laden Task Force that I started in 1996. That's the same unit that eventually got bin Laden and allowed our SEAL team guys to go in there and shoot him in the face.
Rick, I'd like to pivot just a little bit and get your opinion of something more cultural that's going on in this country. And we cover this a lot on this show about kids not really understanding history, not having an appreciation of history, and in fact being taught now in a lot of schools to not, to hate their country. We're seeing not only the loss of understanding of where they came from and how this country was founded, but again, being taught that it's, a terrible country based in racism. And
even if I can, even with 9/11, you've got some teacher curriculums right now explaining how, well, we were partly to blame.
Yeah, we deserved it. So I'd kind of like your thoughts on that. And in addition, sort of the fading of the memory of 9/11. Do you find that young people understand what happened?
Absolutely not. But addressing the first part of the topic, this is a great operation by the Russians and the Chinese. They've been undermining our society from day one at our universities, and we continue to play softball with everybody, and that's the problem. As a country, we don't need to be liked. We need to be respected. And if you don't respect us, fear us. When you have leaders like Jimmy Carter and others more recent, they see us as food. So it's very difficult. Now, the kids out there, I don't think they have a clue. The problem here is we don't know how good we have it in this country, and we are not educating our kids into the realities of what this country is about. It's made of people, so we're not perfect. But damn it, if you compare us just about any other country in the world, whether it's for ethnic diversity, opportunity, et cetera, we're still number one. And we're not building walls to keep Americans from going to Mexico and our borders.
Yeah.
This is the greatest country that everybody wants to come in except us.
Well, and that's why hateful organizations like Al-Qaeda and other countries, it's why they hate us, because we're that good. We're speaking with Rick Prado, former CIA operations officer and author of Black Ops, A Life of a CIA Shadow Warrior. Real fast, Rick, that you will hear from some politicians in this time. Back to the politicians again. On this September 11th, they will talk about the threats that we faced back then as something very remote from where we are today. They don't think we have the same threat. I wonder if you look at it a little differently. Are you concerned about the next 9/11? Are you concerned that we're right back in that place again where we have taken the eye off the ball?
Absolutely, 100%. I will tell you that another thing, since the agency cannot advertise a lot of our successes, but I can assure you that we have derailed several major attempts, along with the community, of course, not just us.
Yes.
So, absolutely, yes, China is the number one enemy, 100 years old, plans, Russia and Soviet Union, Iran, but terrorism, radical Islamic terrorism is here to stay. And whether they get us in American soil or they get us overseas, their intent continues to be to kill us.
Yeah.
Why? Because we are the only thing standing between them and our freedom.
It is a very long game for our enemies, and they are in it for the long haul. We got to be too. Rick Prado, thank you. Thank you for your 24 years with the CIA, and thank you for helping us on this conversation today. And thank you to all your colleagues in counterterrorism across the spectrum in our government. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate that.
Again, his book is Black Ops, A Life of a CIA Shadow Warrior. It's riveting stuff. 8:15 WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on